You said you're assembling a new campaign team. Do you anticipate key staff positions being different than it was in the Senate campaign?
Yes, yes. I'm going to put a new team together. I'm going to put a new team together. New manager, new media consultant, new pollster. I'm going to put a whole new team together.
How do you deal with some Kentuckians who were disappointed in the Aqua Buddha ad?
Well, Jack, you learn a lot about yourself in a race. In that last race, I learned never go against your gut. It's one of the few times I've kind of gone against my gut. And, you know, I don't regret much about that race. And looking back at it, I don't know that any Democrat could have won it in that environment. On election day, the polling showed that the president's approval rating was in the low 30s, and I ran 13, 14 points ahead of the president's approval rating. So if you look at what we did nationally, we were pretty, we still ran fairly strongly. So I don't think, despite all the commentary about it, I don't think that that the ad really affected my numbers all that much. I will concede that it might have affected my brand a little bit, and a lot of people didn't think that the ad was in line with the type of public servant I've always been. And it could have been done differently, and my great regret is that I knew the issue was out there. You're polling a lot in the Senate race, and the ad, I first saw it late at night at 11:30, and was being advised they had to go out quickly. And I slowed it down, and I had some reservations about it, but it's the one time I didn't really follow my gut, and I'll tell people in Kentucky I'll never run an ad again that I'm not okay with in my gut. And so it's something like that. The decision, I should have seen it much earlier and had more time to evaluate it. But things get going so fast in the Senate race that you just, you're out, you're giving speeches, raising money, and you're in a Holiday Inn Express at 11:30 at night, and all of a sudden you see that on someone's computer, and decisions being made, and it's ultimately it's on me. Ultimately, it's my responsibility, and I get that. But I can assure the people of Kentucky that this particular candidate will never run an ad again that doesn't feel right in his gut. And Ronnie wrote about this one time, and I don't know the exact phrase you used, but what that did, and ultimately, I was getting outspent. The outside groups are outspending me 5 to 1. We fatted it up. It was over $20 million spent against me, and a lot of it outside money. And after, when the race really got contentious, Crossroads doubled down, and the money really made the difference. That's what made the difference. But I did allow my opponent, in 2010 is 2010, but my opponent was unconventional. I think we'd all agree that he questioned fundamental provisions of the Civil Rights Act. He questioned fundamental provisions of the Americans with Disabilities Act. He made a statement that he wanted to electrify the southern border of the United States and put an electric fence in place. He went around Frankfurt for 10 years saying he was head of the Kentucky Taxpayers United and had 1,000 dues-paying members, and some people did some research. He'd made that up, and my campaign allowed his candidacy to be seen as the victim, and my campaign shouldn't have done that.
You said you had that feeling in your gut. What was that feeling? You never really described the feeling. I mean, what was it?
You go through polling, and you know what may be coming up as issues in the campaign, and I knew that that there were some things related to that particular era and time that might become an issue, but it could have been done so much differently. And it was a visual reaction, Greg. It was just when I first saw it, I went, "Who?" And let's be honest, the ad was strong as mule's breath. I mean, it was, and I just kind of went, "Ooh," and maybe it did something visually beyond what it did in its narration. And I slowed it down, but it was one of those situations where it was kind of pull the trigger, or you don't visit the issue at all. And from a management standpoint, I shouldn't have been put in a position of having it happen all that quickly. There wasn't enough time to evaluate it, and So I kind of went against my gut, and I'll never go against my gut again. I learned that about myself.
Do you think the message you were trying to get is still a correct message, but you just didn't deliver what you were trying to say to the voter the right way?
I don't know that it was necessarily the right message. I mean, I think most of the voters of Kentucky, and I probably, you know, it was something that happened long ago. Now there were some of his compatriots in that organization that were on the record, and maybe that, rather than focusing on the woman who wouldn't reveal her name, maybe that was the way to go. I don't know. I haven't figured it all out yet, but there was a better way to deal with that, and I acknowledge that.
You just said
All right, can we?
Is this a critical piece of your decision for the new team? Did that play
Yeah, I need to
your
change.
regret for this, over this?
Well, I think that Senate races get real big, and you are running a race that not only you have to be pleased with, but that puts you in a position to win, but that also pleases the outside groups and the Democratic Central Campaign Committee and their potential investment in the race. And obviously, I was talking to the DSCC throughout that whole process. And it was more of a national race, and so it gets awfully big, and then late in the campaign, you're raising money, giving speeches, you're all over the state, you're not sleeping but a few hours a night, and there's so many things going on in your name. There's so much that the candidate's not aware of, and I want a tighter circle and a more of a Kentucky focus, and so sometimes, you know, I like all the people that worked on my Senate race. I consider them friends, but I think maybe a change in perspective is in order.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.